Can Concord be saved? This is the biggest question that we're hearing now in the video gaming audience when they were talking about the character designs and overall outlook for the recently now pronounced deceased Concord game, which servers shut down this past Friday, leaving an empty space in the video gaming community and a question for a lot of people thinking, can Concord be revived again? And I think this is a reasonable question to ask because Concord is not an abysmal game. It's not an absolutely terrible game. It just suffers from design flaws that are so obvious that it should have been picked up at the inception of the creation of the game. But of course, with political progressive ideology ruling Firewalk Studios with an iron fist, taking a lot of the character designs that they do have and uglify them to the point where it created an unattractive environment for gamers to actually gain some interest for this game and actually play it and discover some of the intricacies that are actually fun about this game. And I think this is a situation that we have here for Concord. Concord is not a great game, it's not a good game, but it's not an absolutely terrible game, and it can be saved. And I think that's what we're seeing online with people talking about we should just retry and revamp the designs of the characters and re-release the game itself, maybe change some small gameplay elements. But this game is not absolutely dead, and that's the trend that you're seeing online as people gather and recreate some of the designs of some of the most famous ugly characters from Concord. And this is just one of them where you can just see the stark difference in the character look and appeal, where you suddenly have an interesting character that people actually want to play. And I think these are just one of many designs that have come out where people are altering the overall look of Concord, where it's making it a palatable game that can attract gamers. And I think this is a situation all across the development sphere, at least in the Western games development sphere, where there's a perverse attraction to making ugly characters and just generally unappealing looks for their lead characters in video games. And this is something we see all across the industry, even the European industry with Ubisoft, where everyone is making ugly characters the staple of their games in this perverse pursuit in adding body positivity representation, gender, racial representation, everything representation to the game except pretty characters. And I think this is the thing that should have been the default that is actually missing from the game itself, because if you see other games in a similar category like Concord, you see that they have the designs to attract the customer base. You see this with Overwatch. Overwatch has a similar politics to Concord. It has the same gender, racial representation ideology, but they know the number one thing they have to do to maintain a player base is to make attractive looking characters that draw in a fan base. That's why adding the addition of a new character like Luna is attracting more of a fan base, because they made a character look actually appealing to the gamer base. And I think that's the essential thing. Man or woman, everyone likes seeing pretty things. And I think this is the thing that's absent in Concord, where they've just stripped it all out of the video game, while other games like Marvel Rivals and other edition of video games coming out are pursuing making beautiful characters the mainstay of their games. And I think that's the thing you have to do if you're creating a game, you're trying to market a game to a viable customer base. You don't ridicule that customer base for not liking your ugly characters. No, you make attractive, appealing characters to draw in a customer base. And this is something that was completely absent with Concord, that barely had a peak customer base of 697 people. And something you can see here with the reporters and people at the studio, they're baffled by this. From the reporters and people at the studio, they're baffled by this, saying, why is no one playing the game? This is a good game, when it's obvious you made something so objectively ugly that no one wants to play it. And I think people coming in and creating their own designs for these characters is showing a way for this game to come back, crawl back, and actually survive. And I think this is one of the first steps where people are making an attempt to improve this game in such a way where I see some of these new character designs and I'm thinking, okay, it really was a character design issue. Because if you had characters that look like this, people would actually play the game instantly. And I compare this game with First Descendant. The First Descendant is an absolutely stunningly beautiful game, but it doesn't have the number one gameplay mechanics. It has an okay game loop that can attract you, but I think the attractive characters grab hold of your interest and keep you playing the game. And I think that's the advantage that First Descendant had, where it didn't reject beauty, it embraced beauty, and that beauty has brought a steady fan base of over 50,000 people playing this game consistently and not letting it go. And I think that's the thing that we have to see for other studios to do, is to actually make a game that is beautiful and appealing to the player base. And I think the First Descendant does it so well that it shows what Concord is missing. And I think the challenge online on Twitter of improving the designs is actually doing something positive that may actually save the game in the future, in a similar way that happened to Sonic. Because you see some of these characters, the famously gender non-binary Indian character that we see, you can see the revamp of the design where you can make an actually appealing character that is on the opposite end of the spectrum, where you're gonna have players playing this character, buying their costumes and buying additional items for this character because they like the look of the character themselves. And I think you can go on, especially with this character, this cafeteria lady auntie in armor that we famously see from Concord. You can improve this character in multiple different ways where it becomes a more interesting and engaging character. And I think that's the thing I'm loving and seeing. Even the Chinese grandma can be improved in such a way where I'm like, okay, this is a cool Chinese grandma. I would actually play as the Chinese grandma now. And I think this is the thing that we're corely missing from Concord, this attentiveness to making a character appealing. They don't have to be the most beautiful person, they don't have to be the youngest person, they just have to be made charming in such a way where it captures the player's attentions, where they're like, okay, I want to play this kind of cool grandma that probably used to be attractive but now is just a badass in the game. And I think that's the thing people want to see in their games, an improvement on reality, not a degradation, a subjugation to reality, where we're sticking to reality so closely where the game is unappealing to look at. And I think that's what Concord suffered from. And you can see some of these new character designs. I just like what they're doing with some of these basic average character designs that we saw from Concord, and it's improving it in such a way where we get beautiful, unique characters, and you're gonna have their attention. And I think that's what we're seeing with other studios like Nexon and the First Descendant. They made appealing and attractive characters, and they got the player base attention, and everything else afterwards with the gameplay was good enough to support it, so they kept that attention. And I think that's the situation we have to see with Concord, and these redesigns are doing it. From what I'm seeing, these character designs look like something players would actually play as. And I think when we see some of these looks and transformations of these characters, it really grabbed my attention, where I'm thinking, okay, we could actually make a good game out of this. And I think people would play the game if it did look like this, at least the characters themselves, because it's not an abysmal game that's absolutely terrible. At least the gameplay is average, it's nothing amazing, but I think if it had beautiful designs, it would support the game a little bit more, and it wouldn't peak just at 687 players or anything like that. So I think seeing this contest online where people are doing redesigns, they're taking it as a challenge to take some of these characters and make them into entirely new characters that are interesting and appealing and may actually grab the attention of the fan base. And I think this is the big thing I would want to see from Concord. It's better than anything that they have right now, and I think it's the only chance to actually save the game and its future. And I think this is what Sony has an opportunity to do. It needs to hire these new designers, or maybe not even hire new designers, because the designers that they currently have are actually talented. If you look at some of their backgrounds, you realize, okay, some of these people that did work on this game, like Amanda Kiefer, she seems like she's very talented, but she was managed and suppressed to make some of these characters look in this way. And I think that's what we're seeing right now, where we're seeing talented designers and artists managed in such a way where they had to end up with these terrible designs. So that's why I don't blame the designers, the artists. I know people are putting heaps of blame on them, and I think we gotta look back at the management. This is something that was directed up top, that they wanted these type of looking characters, and I think the artists just delivered on their jobs, and now their jobs are looking shaky. You can see the complaints from the artists talking about this situation, where they're saying, okay, we actually put all our effort in there, and it was not something that was bottom up that was the problem with this game and the designs. This is a executive decision, these designs, so the artists didn't really have a say so on what they can produce. And I think we got to take it easy on the artists. I know people want to blame the artists a lot here, but I'm going to take it easy on them, because I think we could see characters like this that grab our attention in such a way that bring us back to the game if Sony will take the chance and try to save Concord. But you tell me what you think about the situation. Do you think Sony should go out there on a limb and try to save Concord? I think it's a possibility. I like these new designs that we're seeing of these characters. These characters look interesting as they're remodeled online, and I think that's the thing I want to see for Concord. I want Concord to be successful, and I think this is the way for it to happen. But maybe you disagree with me. If that is the case, you leave your comments, tell me what you think. Like, comment, share, subscribe. This is Wagner Knows Why. Catch you next time.